Welcome back to Healing in Spanglish. It's episode 13. It's your hosts, Metzli and Ishel, your Boyle Heights besties, figuring out what wellness looks like for us and our people.
So let's get real about healing in all the ways we weren't taught but deeply deserve. So the theme for today is navigating our relationships with our parents. We're going to dive into how they've evolved as we've grown. Also just seeing your parents as humans. They have also gone through their fair share of situations, and, some of them have been surviving here in the US. So we're going to talk about how we experience a relationship with them, how we receive love, and, how we've also learned to forgive them.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about this because I feel like every single person in the entire world has to navigate relationships with parents. Yeah. It goes in waves of good and bad and challenges, but at the end of the day, there's nothing like a parent, child relationship. So I'm excited to talk about it. Before we jump into the conversation, we're going to talk about our Spanglish word of the week. And this week we decided to choose actually how we refer to our parents, since everyone in their own household refers to mom, dad, whoever your guardian is differently. For me, I quite literally call my parents mother, father, but it's more like a joke for some reason. We like do that because even with my siblings, I say like, hey sister, hey brother. I don't know.
When did that start?
I don't know. It wasn't forever. Okay. It was more recent years, I think, as we became adults. I don't know where we got that from, but we refer to each other as like sister, brother, mother, father, daughter, son. Like it's that. So that's cute. Literally how it's more jokingly. Like my family is goofy like that, so we literally say like the full professional word.
But it sounds so serious because your sister, she's like, hey sister.
Yeah. But it's so natural now. But at one point, yes, it was just like mom, dad. Now it's not that.
Yeah,
bro. And then of course my parents have nicknames for us, and so like that's always been different.
What's your nickname?
My dad, growing up, he always called me Tulips. So that's my favorite flower is tulips. Yeah. And then my nickname in my family was Mecha because of my grandpa. So my grandpa made all of us like grandchildren a nickname. So we all have a name different than our actual name. And mine was Mecha. Mechaline Mecha.
Interesting. I love that.
How about you?
I call my mom Mama and Papa.
Yeah.
Papa? Yeah. So
you're like, do I have Papa?
Sorry, it just feels so weird to like
say
switch to English and then Spanish.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people use like mommy or papi.
Yeah.
For me, I've never used that.
The way I've always been sus about that, I'm like,
I know,
you like calling your dad papi?
But I respect it because I'm like, that's your parent.
I know. I get it.
But I've always felt weird about that.
But it's because of how we've treated those words now.
Yes.
Like I think those words are not quite literally like we mean our fathers now. Those words have evolved to your lover. And so like I think it's a little bit weird to say those words, which I agree. But like I get it when it's like it's normal. It's just now they mean different.
They mean different for sure. Yeah. I also call them like viejito or viejita.
Oh,
yeah.
Cute.
And I use another nickname, but I won't say it on here.
That stays private.
Yeah.
All right. And then I also wanted to check in about our mini healing confession, whatever you're working on. For myself, and this, I sort of kind of come in sharing what I'm working on in therapy a lot of the times.
That's good.
And one of the biggest things that I've been really trying to focus on is emotional regulation. I think I oftentimes, like when I get overwhelmed, I sort of like immediately start crying. Like it sort of bursts out of me. And I'm trying to work on like catching myself to like understand the triggers of why I start to like get so overwhelmed in the moment, to then identify like what are the things I need to do before getting there, or remind myself in the moment. So honestly, I've been better at that, catching myself like, wait, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. But I just like, usually my default has been like, just cry, you know, and just like, just like feel like everything's to pieces. But I'm really trying to work on like catching it and being like, okay, what can I do about this? What's actually going to happen? What's the worst case scenario? Like, it's really not that bad. So yeah, I've been trying to work on that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Mine is just going out and sitting in the sun, or at least going for like a morning walk, because I've noticed now that it's like hotter, I'm like stuck in the office more, because before I used to take my lunch break outside.
That's true.
So I don't really get to go outside as often as I would like to. So just, making like a short minute, like 15-minute walk happen in the morning, that, because you need that vitamin D. Like a lot of us are deficient in vitamin D. So that's my little healing one.
That's so true, especially with it getting hotter like we sort of just like skipped over spring, I feel, straight into summer.
I know, I love
I'm like,
spring.
we literally are not spending as much time outside at all.
Yeah.
So I get you. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and on a more lighthearted note, I was curious, what is one of the very first memories or like a core memory that you have with your parents?
Yes. Oh my God. I was reflecting on this because I was like, oh my God, what are the things that I like remember the most about like my upbringing with my mom and dad? And for my dad is the reason I ever got into running in the first place.
Really?
Yeah. He used to, one of the biggest ways we connected on was sports. I am probably out of the three of us siblings, the most, not athletic, but the most like interested in sports. In like the actual physical activity, not the watching. But because of that, my dad always like also was into sports and loved running. So he used to take me out since like as young as like 5th grade. We would go running around Evergreen Cemetery.
That's so cute.
And so, I just remember that being like, he really introduced me to something that I ended up loving and being a big part of my life. So he really helped expose me to different types of things like that. And they were always also the type of parents who showed up at sports competitions that I had, like my cross country ones, even though those were the most boring ones. They still showed up and like really were there to support. So that's a big core memory of my dad. My mom, I think one of the biggest things is knowing like my mom would never come. My mom was like the kindest and like never would complain about anything, and would take me everywhere. Like this girl would drive me anywhere in terms of anything that I wanted to try, sport, dance class, go to, I don't know, some event, go visit schools, whatever it is. Like she would drive me everywhere, and she would stick around until class was over to pick me up. And I'm just like, dang, like that's a big deal. Like she made it possible so that I can actually be there. Because one of the biggest barriers is getting to the actual place, transportation. And I didn't have that issue because she was willing to drive me everywhere and wait around.
So sweet.
Yeah. So those are my core memories.
Unconditional
Yeah.
love.
Yes, for reals.
Yeah.
How about you?
Mine, similar with my dad. I remember I was a big Directioner, like crazy, you guys. I had a shrine in my room. One Direction.
Okay, I'm like, that's what you guys call yourselves,
Yes.
Directioners?
Thank you very much. Yes, that is my name. I was just really obsessed with them. And I remember, obviously, like, growing up, like, we were struggling financially, but my dad always tried his very best to give me what he possibly could.
Aww.
And I remember I was like, I really want to go see them. They're in LA. They're at the Staples Center back when it was called that. And he was like, let's go, mija. He's like, maybe I can get you in. We will see. So we're like there. We're like listening to stuff outside. You can hear like the screams and everything. And then I just remember like some guy comes up to us and he's like, you guys want to go in? And he was like, I can get you a ticket. I think it was like $60 that he sold it to us. He's like, and I'm gonna make sure like I'll stay here with you and you can pay me after you see her go in. And so my dad basically is like, okay, fuck it, let's do the deal. And he goes, you see me, huh? He's like, go in. And then he literally like, I go into the concert and then like he waits I end up getting in. He waits like a full 2 hours outside just for me so I can watch the One Direction concert. And I remember being like,
I'm gonna cry.
Fuck. Now that I think about it, I'm like, that is so sweet because like with his hard-earned money, like he didn't, not me tearing up.
I know, literally
I'm like, he got me in. And also he was fucking smart. He was like, fuck Ticketmaster. He was like, I'm gonna get you
that
in.
shit makes me emotional.
No, literally, it was like,
That's crazy.
it's one of my favorite memories. And I always tell him like, that is so sweet. And even though I know that like we didn't have the best emotional bond, I think he definitely showed me love in different ways. So yeah, that was definitely one. And then another one is with my mother. Her and I cuddle a lot, like till this day, like, we're like, can we just hug each other? Yeah, like we're besties and we just like cuddle. And I think I really appreciate that because it's like made me just really love like affection. So yeah, I'm just really grateful that like I still have her and like can be like, let's go cuddle and it'll happen.
Aw,
yeah,
that's so cute.
Yeah.
I love that. Those are such great examples.
I know. I'm like, oh my god,
guys, takes a break to cry. Okay, so to jump into the conversation first, like we said, we wanted to talk about where it all started, upbringing, growing up in our household. So I would love for you to share, what was your relationship like with them growing up? Like, what was that experience like? Obviously, we know you're an only child, which adds probably to it a bit. So yeah, what was the relationship like growing up for you?
I think for the most part, I would say it was pretty good, other than like their relationship dynamic that
but,
affected
like, you
me.
with them.
But like me directly with my parents, like I always just felt very loved by them. I think I'm really grateful to be an only child. Like
That is funny.
I know. Yeah. Well, just because like I feel like I got so much love and attention and like intentionality went like was behind everything they did towards me, and so I feel like I was a kid that was very loved and like I wasn't like they say that only child are like selfish. I'm like, I wouldn't consider myself selfish. They wouldn't like buy things for me like crazily. Like obviously they would make me earn my things, make sure that I was doing good in school. But I think for the most part, I had a good relationship with them. I think just with my dad, the emotional part wasn't there sometimes, but with my mom, it was definitely there because she was like my best friend. Honestly, me and her were really close, and we would talk about like everything. I would know about like her own stuff that she was going through, but for the most part, it was good. And then it definitely did shift like as I got older, for sure.
That makes sense. And you know, I mean, I think that makes sense for a lot of us who experience the little differences between our mother and father relationships, because obviously you also, not only you being a woman, but also just like it tends to be that a lot of the times the relationship we have to our fathers, it looks really different. A lot of the times it's the relationship with the mother, whether you're a boy, girl, whatever, like you still sort of, it seems to be that the pattern is a lot of the times the mother is a little bit more present. A little bit more involved. We sort of like default to them for help. I know that like growing up, my mom used to always say, why do you always ask me for help? Tell your dad. I'm like, that's I don't know. Shit.
He told me to go to you.
But yeah, I can totally agree to that to some extent, where my relationship with my parents, I would say overall very lucky too, in the sense that I always felt loved. I always felt supported. I always felt like I had two present parents, like they were in my house growing up, like in my life. And so I definitely feel like, I agree with you. I had decently like a very fortunate upbringing. My relationships did look different with both of them, of course. I don't even think my dad per se was like, definitely not present, but similar emotionally, probably a little bit different. I definitely, if anything, dug in deeper with my mom versus my dad. You know, I didn't talk to my dad about some things. I think it was awkward. But that's just sort of, it's definitely like a pattern I've heard among a lot of people that father looks different than mother a lot of the times. So similar in that way. But yes, I still think at the end of the day, which I think we'll talk about more anyways, my relationship to my mother and father, regardless of either of them, is that they still, we didn't really ever dig into emotions. Like vulnerability wasn't present as much.
Gotcha. So on that note, like what role did emotions play in your house? Like were they talked about? Were they like, you know, just kind of put to the side? Did your parents teach you about like emotional regulation or anything? Like, I'm just curious, like what was the role of emotions?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that for the most part, when we ever we never had, I would say, like proper discussions, obviously, about emotional regulation. But did I feel like I was taught in a way that was okay, like, hey, Metzli, like, this is how you're feeling. This is what this probably means. Like, yes, I think my mom like sort of helped me understand emotions and how to communicate them. But like the part of vulnerability, like if we were mad at each other or something bothered us, I don't think they were healthy. Like the way we behaved was more like my mom would close the door. Like, you guys deal with it. You guys fight it out. Or not actually physically, but like among my siblings, like you guys deal with it and yell at each other instead of like, let's sit down and talk about it. Or, you know, and also being the oldest, I also understand and acknowledge that as the first one, they were still trying to figure it out as well. My mom and dad had me when they were 22, 23, both. So I also understand, looking back at that age, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you're sort of like figuring out with this new human how to deal with this new dynamic, you know, this new being. And so I do think like me being the oldest did sort of influence sort of a lot of taboo conversations, a lot of like navigating for the first time. She got her period. My mom never talked to me about that. Never did. Sex, absolutely not till this day. You know, even like bras. My mom would never say, you need a bra now. She would say TB, which is a training bra. Oh. Yeah, it was very taboo, very taboo. And I think it came from her sort of raising herself. She grew up with only boys. Her mom was not that present. She was working like multiple jobs. So we never really talked about a lot of things that I think then forced me to explore that through other friends in my life, other people. And so, yeah, I would say like emotions wise, we didn't ever talk about some of those feelings of how to communicate them healthy. You know, like, okay, you're mad at each other, let's talk it out, or let's understand where that's coming from. It was more just like, you guys deal with it and you guys fight it out, or or you guys like talk amongst yourselves about it. So that's sort of how we dealt with stuff, I would say. Yeah, we never really talked. And then don't even get me started about like relationships, like boys. Like if I had feelings for a boy, hell no, I would not tell anybody. Like never.
Like no one knew.
No one ever in my life. Like growing up, a crush, never normalized in my house. Like to like a person, I guess. Like that was just like, I think super uncomfortable for them. I don't think it was unrealistic for them. I think it was super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And they would never bring it up or never. And so I think because they never opened up the opportunity to talk about anything, I never felt like I could, you know?
Yeah.
So I never talked about anything to them. I only ever talked about like having a crush or having feelings for anyone or anything like that, relationships. Probably in high school to friends. That was the first time. Middle school, never even thought about anything, to be honest. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. But that emotions, that's sort of how it played. What about you? How were like emotions talked about? I don't
Very
know.
similar. I think my mom has a background in psychiatry. So to some degree, like she taught me about like my emotions, like the importance of mental health. And so like I was a little bit more conscious about that. But I don't think she learned about it, but I don't think she knew how to like implement it in a healthy way.
I was gonna ask, like, what did that look like?
Yeah,
like, did she sit you down ever? Or no,
I mean, so we would sit down and have conversations. Like she talked to me about my period, I remember, and about like sex, but it was always from a fearful lens. So it wasn't like, you know, educative. Like, right. You know, you can talk to me about this. It was kind of like, you can get.
You don't want to do this.
You don't want to do this. Like it's giving Jane the Virgin type things. And so I just remember those like were mainly the conversations, but it was only my mom having that conversation with me. My dad was not in the picture.
Dad was not there. Ooh.
Yeah, but it's funny too because I think about it. I'm like, I don't think like we ever allowed. I think maybe the only emotion that was kind of like normalized was like crying. Like sometimes when I would cry, my parents would be really concerned about me, and so they would want to ask like what's happening or whatever. But for the most part, no. Like even when it comes to like, oh my god, like there's things that I'm getting triggered at. I'm like,
I know, right?
There's things, I'm like, there's things that like I guess I did that were rebellious or. Maybe I shouldn't have fucking done. Let's just say that it wasn't anything crazy. Like, well, I'll tell you off camera. But I remember it was like just so weird and uncomfortable that my parents just never talked about it. They did the classic Latino thing where they just like brush it over and we don't talk about it. Yeah. So there's been a lot of situations where like they were big things that happened, but my parents were so uncomfortable.
I can guess what it is actually. Now that you're saying that,
I don't think I've ever told you.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
I'll tell you later. Anyways, yeah.
And then I also have a follow up to. What about like all these other emotions like frustration, anger? Yeah. How did they ever manage that with you? Like when you felt that, what would happen? Like for me, right? My mom would close the door, y'all deal with it. Or if we're not talking and we wouldn't talk for hours. That's how we would deal with it. Very avoidant. How did your family and your dynamic deal with like those emotions? Or like when you had something to say or like.
I was frustrated.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they would. Mainly my mom, she would try to engage in like a conversation with me. She would mainly just listen to me. She would like let me have my moment. And I think like afterwards she would try to do something, but she wouldn't like talk about it again. She'd just like listen to me. Cause I remember too, there was like this one time where like, I don't know what I was crying about. I think like I was just like feeling really insecure about like not fitting in at school and not like having this kind of clothes and all this stuff. And I'm like, I just feel like everything is a pass me now, whatever.
Yeah.
And she just like listened to me. But that was like mainly it. Like we wouldn't.
But then didn't bring it back up.
Didn't bring it back up.
Or say anything about it.
Say anything. Yeah.
And were you seeking for something to be brought back up, or like did you just? Because I know for some people, like I sort of had the opposite experience where anytime I did tell my mom something, she wanted to give me all these lessons about life and explain what I should do. And for me, sometimes all I wanted to do was be listened to versus like told what to do about it.
Yeah.
So that actually ended up discouraging me sometimes to ever share stuff because I was like, if I tell my mom, she's going to tell me a bunch of things instead of just like letting me like make a mistake and say what I did. And that's it, you know?
Yeah.
Did you want
I was on a similar note.
Okay.
Yeah, because my mom was a little bit not a crazy helicopter parent, but she was a little bit. She was very involved, like in every single part of my life. So yeah, there was times where like, even till this day, like I'll tell her something, like I'll come home and rant about like work or like something that happened, and they're like, here comes the lesson. And I was like, you guys, I was like, I just want to rant and I want you to listen. And that's it. Like, that's it. We're done.
Just be my friend now.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think a lot of it is just like their parents, so they're protective of you. But I think like they also need to learn to listen to just their kids and not have to educate them or give them a lesson on. I
get the struggle though. Yeah. Like my mom, I've told my mom that before, how like sometimes I just want you to listen to me, like just hear what I have to say and not tell me what I did wrong, because I already know. I just want you to hear the frustration.
Exactly.
And feel like validated like that. But what she says is, it feels like her responsibility as a parent to say something. And she's like, I'm not your friend. I'm your mother, which means I can't just listen and not do anything about it. And, you know, I have disagreements with it, but, you know, that's her viewpoint of how she sees it. And so that's why a lot of the times I won't go to her for certain things.
Yeah.
In the past, at least. I think we've developed a much better relationship now. But growing up, I feel you on the...
It was just hard.
A bunch of things will come after it.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God.
Like, girl, just listen. Yeah. And then, I also wanted to, like, touch on this. How would your... Because I know you, and we can share briefly if you don't want to share too much, but I'm also curious, like, obviously from what we see as an example of how people behave, how that was for you, like what you might have saw happening. So for example, for me, I have this like core memory of how my dad was emotionally dealing with what he was feeling, where we were in the car, I was in the passenger side, and he was yelling and he was expressing how he feels frustrated that like this family doesn't appreciate him. But obviously he was doing it in a way that was like yelling. He was like hitting the steering wheel, and I was there and I started crying. I was scared. Not that he was going to do anything to me, but I didn't know what to do. I just was like, I don't know what this means, what to say. And so I just started crying, and that's how I reacted. But sometimes I would see those emotions out of them, right? Like my parents sort of like, instead of, hey, you know, to each other, can we talk about how this made me feel? Like, no, never, ever. It was always like yelling or like super burst of frustration, and then like would not talk. I know there was points in my upbringing where like they did not talk and were just like there together. And I think that did influence eventually how I sort of saw like behavior, even though I knew it wasn't right. Like you still internalize it somehow, like avoidant a little bit is how I felt. I ended up being like shutting down when I see stuff happen. So I'm curious too, like, did you ever see any dynamics that you then felt like sort of like influence how you saw people manage like their emotions, you know? Like I don't know how they would do it, if it was avoidant too or not, but
I think for my dad it was mainly avoidant, but I would say that because I hung around with my mom mostly, poor girl, she has no emotional regulation skills at all.
Poor girl.
No, but like it's really bad. And like I think part of it is I was deeply influenced by that. And like there was a point, I feel like now I'm able to manage stress and like, you know, situations that happen and arise. But like she gets really flustered when like something goes wrong and like, she doesn't really know how to handle it and like, you know, regulate herself in that moment and kind of like act. She can do it, but I think it just overwhelms her a lot. And she just lived a really hard life, and I don't blame her. She was like basically the oldest girl in her family, so you know she had to deal with so much and was the example. But yeah, she gets really stressed easily. Like she doesn't know how to manage her emotions at all, and so I feel like I picked that up a lot. And so I think I carried that along with me. And I will say that like I never had any clue how to handle my emotions at all. And then my dad on the opposite side, he was more so like avoidant. So like he was kind of so avoidant to the point where like they got bottled up, and then like something triggered it, and then
that was like my dad.
We
have talked about this.
It would just like come out, and he would say things he shouldn't have, and then she also was kind of avoidant too to some degree. So I think that was what I saw, just kind of like bottling things up and like not saying anything until like, you know, it reached its breaking point. And so I think that was my influence, honestly. And I did see it like show up a lot in like relationships and like friendships as well. And I think now I'm working on like emotional regulation, and I think I've gotten really good at it, which is crazy because there's times where we're in stressful situations with my parents and my mom's with me. I think I told you about my wheel popped. She was like, oh my God, she was like overwhelmed. Like she was up here and I was literally like I get it,
Okay,
mom. I'm
yeah,
like, but
yeah.
okay, like we can figure it out. Like
Yeah.
step 1, step 2, step 3, it'll be okay.
That's great.
And I think I've had to teach her that, and she sees it in me, and
Mhm.
she's like, oh, okay, it is
It's gonna
possible.
be fine.
Yeah. So
I love
yeah,
that, yeah.
that's definitely been like my experience, at least with like
Yeah,
their
seeing the emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so interesting. It is, because when I now like reflecting on it, I'm like, I don't know if I ever actually really witnessed firsthand an example of like healthy dynamic, because it was
Yeah.
only my parents ever, and I was oldest, so it's not like I had siblings and their relationships to watch ever.
Mhm.
So I really never saw, other than like, yeah, the avoidance and the yelling, the shutting doors, and then moving on. Yeah, just like ignoring it. It's so interesting.
I know.
It's so interesting.
So
yeah.
unhealthy. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
bad.
but you don't know that. You
Yeah.
think that's normal. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy. So my last question in the front of just like upbringing, childhood, is I would love to know, like, what are, on the flip side, the positives? What are the ways that like your parents did show you love, that you appreciate, or the things in general that you just know like it actually, you now see really benefited you in the long run of how you grew up, or what your parents sort of like did for you as parents?
As a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. As parents.
Yeah.
I think for me, definitely their love language was like acts of service and gift giving.
Yeah.
So I think my mom,
gift giving.
she always hated cooking, which is funny because she cooks a lot, and
Yeah.
she's like, I only cook because I like to eat.
Got it.
So her thing is like, she wants to cook like traditional Guatemalan dishes, and so I love that my mom like continues to make like those dishes, and she like she knows what I like, and like for my birthday she'll be like, I'm gonna make you something and it's a surprise, and I'm like, I already know every year it's the same thing, but it's like the best thing ever. So I think like for her love was through like food, and also like just making sure that I was always like fed, that like I drank my water, that you know I had slept. So like she would, I think like as a teenager, like I was like, oh my gosh, she's so annoying, like what does she want, why is she always asking if I ate? But like the reality is she cares so much about me that like if I haven't, she'll go make me like some eggs or something. So I think those were a lot of the things that I, you know, like my parents taught me as love, and it's the same way I give love to people now.
For sure.
Like I definitely see it like that in relationships. But also I think with my dad, it's also like gift giving is what he taught me, because he struggled with the words. So
right, the words are hard.
The words are hard for him. But when it came to like always just giving me something that I really wanted, like he was good at it. As a little girl,
stuff.
it was
like little
very
things that you paid attention to.
Yeah, so he taught me that, and I think also just like quality time to some degree, because there were times where I remember we would secretly go and eat things that maybe weren't the healthiest at home, because at home we would eat a lot of like healthy things, because my mom was a nurse, so she wanted to take care of our health, and so we would go to like Tutti Frutti together, we would go eat bags of Takis together. It was so bad. We would eat a bunch of bad,
but it was a bonding.
Yeah, it was a bonding moment, and so I appreciated doing like those things with him, and but I also think like, even though like obviously I think a lot of the emotional part was absent from my parents, like I also give them so much grace because they were immigrants surviving, and my dad was like working labor intensive job, most of them cleaning jobs, my mom as well, and so they did the best that they could within their own capacity. So I think regardless of everything, I'm just grateful that, you know, they still found the time to love me and show me, you know, that they cared about me. So I'm really grateful. Yeah, they still made it a priority. Like they were exhausted, and I'm like, how do you do that? Like I could not. But I love them. Like I love them so much. Yeah,
I feel you. I understand.
What about you?
Yeah. Funny enough, in some similar ways, you just reminded me of actually one of my like things that often does make me feel so grateful for my parents and how they raised me. One of the things is that they showed me like unconditional support. Like any decision I made, any like I want to get into this art, or I want to pursue law instead, or I changed my mind so many times, a million times, and every time they never doubted it. They always trusted me and always like, yes, let's do it. What do we need to get there? You know, let's go get you things so that you can make that happen. Or let's go find classes for you to learn that. So like they always supported me. They never questioned my judgment, which I feel very fortunate that I had, because they trusted me to make decisions because they trusted that like they did enough to make sure that I had like the values, you know, that mattered. And so I appreciated the trust they had in me growing up. And then also, yes, the way they showed me love, for sure, acts of service, like undoubtedly, like that is probably the number one way. My dad, made sure that I never went one day without food for breakfast, like going to school, going to middle school, high school. Every single day he'd make me breakfast. No day would ever go by where he wouldn't. And like, I just remember knowing when I would go to school, some kids did not have breakfast. And I'm just like, dang, like my dad would make it for me. And my dad also volunteered a lot at my middle school and pass out like the lunches.
I'm getting emotional.
I know. And he would bring me food. He would bring me food, and like, he knew that mattered to me so much. And he just like, he cared so much. He made sure I never went one day without it. So I appreciate that like tremendously from him. And my mom, same thing. I mean, oh my gosh, anything that I know.
I'm like, gotta go to work.
Sad, bro. My mom, the same thing. Like there was, I think, in the way, and she still does this to this day. We say something that we like, or that I'm like thinking about or interested in.
Sorry, it was me.
I was like,
she got started.
My mom, on the other hand, like it would never be anything that I was ever interested in or wanting to get into or express like, oh, I really would love like a new, like I'm thinking about, I want these new shoes, whatever it is. She would like go in and find it the same day, like make sure like, oh, hey, I actually bought you this thing that I thought you might use. Or I actually, when I was looking at a home, she was printing like pictures of different houses, like maybe you'd like this kind, maybe make notes for me. Yeah, like she's hilarious, but she goes all out. If anyone ever expresses like, oh, I want this thing, she'll bring it to you the next day. So they've always done that, and I feel like so lucky that what they've shown me is the gift of like listening, paying attention, being thoughtful. I love, and I also now do that. Like I love only giving intentional gifts. I don't like giving random things. I want it to be a story behind it, because I know you like this, or I know you care about this.
Or I thought of you.
I've thought of you in this random moment and brought you this for no reason. And I think like that they taught me that for sure, and like the giving part of making it intentional. So yeah, I appreciate that for them, even with all the struggles and challenges. Like they showed up, and they were always like listening to me. So yeah, parents.
So
I know.
Sweet. I love that.
So crazy.
Yeah, that was very beautiful. I think we both
of ours.
Both of our parents,
and everyone's. I'm sure. Everyone probably in their own ways.
Exactly.
I'm sure y'all can think of your own way that like your parents really like sacrificed and showed up for you in some way.
Yeah. So obviously, I think like as we grow up, sometimes our dynamic shifts. Right. We're trying to find our own independence, and so sometimes there can be some pushback from our parents. So I'm curious, when can you remember vividly that like things started to shift in your relationship with your parents, where you had to set more boundaries and kind of just, I'm curious to hear like what that looked like for you.
Yes. I would definitely say the first time my relationship with my parents ever changed was probably not until college. Like even in high school, I think it was still the same dynamic. You're still living in the same households. It's hard for things to really truly shift. I still never talked about anything going on, any new things I was learning about, experiencing, whatever. Until I went to college, I think I met people in school, friends who were older than me, like fourth years when I was a first year. I felt really lucky because of my Latina sorority. I got connected to older girls, and they taught me a lot. And they also shared like how important it was, some of the things that I needed to probably take home to tell my parents. My freshman year was also the first year I had therapy at an age where I felt like I truly could like process, because I had therapy when I was younger, but very different type of therapy. So I think because of therapy, because of just being in college, learning, and sometimes even learning like, sociology, psychology, all these things that then like sort of applied even to my home life, I then sort of wanted to take back some of these conversations and things I was learning. So I think like, again, one of the most prominent things I would say that I took back was boundaries for the first time of, now I'm on my own, living on my own, and didn't want to necessarily feel like I was obligated to talk to you on the phone every single day. I wanted to do it at a rate where it felt natural and I had something to share and I was excited to share. And it was like a really weird dynamic to communicate without hurting feelings. But it was necessary. I felt like it was becoming like I was not looking forward to talking to them. I felt forced, and I didn't want to feel that way. So that was the first time I sort of felt like, ooh, that's the first time I established a boundary. Like, I'm actually not going to call you every day anymore. And it's hurtful, but like it ended up, I think, making sure that like the conversations we did have were intentional. I think the other thing was first time I was dating and like could not avoid them knowing I needed to bring it up. And that was the fucking most awkwardest thing ever because again, I'm the oldest. No one else had ever had a relationship or shared anything. I was the freaking first one. And I think after me it became so easy for them. Lucky them. It was the most awkward thing. I literally remember the first time I told her about a guy who literally meant nothing after I was like 2 months actually. So I was like, God, what a waste of my time to tell my parents.
Literally.
But I remember sitting in the car with my mom and telling her, hey, I'm dating a guy. Oh my God. She was like, okay. It was the most awkward thing ever, but I was like, I had to like force myself and push myself to do it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it's necessary. Like I cannot avoid it. And I wanted to normalize it. I was so frustrated about us never being able to ever talk about me being in a relationship. Like I was so frustrated over it. So it was my first time like doing that. So awkward, but we got it done. And it was still awkward after that, but over time it became better. And I feel like that's just sort of like the difficulty. Like you just sort of have to do it at some point in order to break like that barrier. And so like that was necessary, but very awkward. So I would say that's like the first time our relationship like shifted where I was forcing us to have conversations that we did not and were not normal. And it sort of, I had to, and also like set boundaries for the first time. So after that, I would say it started to become more normalized. Then when I actually got into a serious relationship, I actually felt comfortable to bring them around. Still awkward, but like I think with time it just got less awkward and more comfortable. And same thing with boundaries. Like you kind of shared this earlier, which I thought was really cool about how you showed your mom an example of you fixing the car or when the car broke down and then the way she was behaving versus you. I also have reflected on the fact that like sometimes when we get to a point in our lives, it's now sort of like our turn to be able to show them there are other ways of reacting or behaving and being able to not let things like suck the life out of you or avoiding it. And it's crazy because I do think at some point in our lives it sort of switches a little bit where like you start to actually teach your parents a lot. And I feel like that's what happened with me too, where like boundary setting, communicating with them, telling them like I was trying to normalize these things that in their lineage never was normalized. It was never talked about. They didn't talk about these things. And I was like, this is going to stop here because we can't keep doing this forever. And it's so much for me to hold on to that I had to force like us to talk about it. So I would say like I agreed with that in the sense that it became a point where like now I was starting to be able to share my own ways of different ways we can engage in conversation or communicate or say, I didn't like that you did that. And it be a conversation rather than don't talk to me and get away from me, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where it like really shifted for me. Yeah.
Interesting.
How about you?
Same. Yeah. I think once you go to college, like obviously, well, one, the cultural difference, I would say for my parents, because obviously they come from Guatemala where, you know, like dorming isn't a thing. You kind of just go to school and you come back home and even here, right? But I think for them, they were struggling with like the system and how it works and how like I decided to go so far. And I think they were devastated for sure. I think I am honestly curious to have a conversation with them now and just want to know like how they really felt. Cause I think it was kind of like, well, whatever, it's kind of too late. She already signed her life to the school. So it was definitely there because my mom and I were super close. Obviously my dad and I had a different relationship, but he was always like, you know, we just wanted to make sure I was fine. And same, like my mom wanted to call me every day. She would, with the 3-hour difference, she would like call me during classes or when I was busy. So there was just a lot of like miscommunication between us. And I think I wanted to like claim my independence like once I left, and that's what I really wanted. And because my parents had been so involved, it was hard to like kind of have them understand my boundaries. And so it was definitely during that time. And so I had conversations like, hey, like I can't call you during this time, I'll call you within like a few hours or like whenever I can, because I'm just busy. Like yes, I'm in college, right? And I might have like more time, but you know, I'm still doing homework, I'm still going to classes. So how did you learn to have those conversations though? Like that's the part I'm curious about. Like what made you do that? Like why did you end up like, I'm going to tell her that I feel this way? Like, were you exposed to anything in college? I wasn't at the time. I didn't start therapy till like, I think sophomore, junior. So it was just kind of like, I probably didn't say it in the best way. I probably said it in a really unhealthy way. I don't freaking remember honestly. But definitely, I just think like, I also felt bad because I love my parents, but I'm like, I feel like I'm ghosting them. But it's like, I'm in this club. I'm so involved. Like I'm trying to, enjoy my college life. So I just had to tell her like, hey, I'm so busy. And so my halfway point was like sending them pictures or like videos and stuff. So that like gave them, like comfort, but it wasn't like we had like a clear conversation. And I will say that like, I don't know, like even when you were talking about like boys, like I remember I was in a relationship in college and I couldn't find the words to say it. I couldn't. I just like, why is it so just didn't until like my mom was like, why are you being suspicious? And I was like, oh shit, it's time to talk about it. Yeah, and it just kind of happened. And you just and
she was so receptive to it?
She wasn't.
Okay.
She wasn't.
That's why I'm curious. Yeah.
She was not receptive. I think she wanted me to focus on school and
okay.
Yeah, as the relationship evolved, it just got worse because it was a very unhealthy relationship that like fucked me over. So I think for her it was so hard. But
of course.
Yeah, I think that was when it shifted for sure. Also because that was when like, well, in college, you like drink, you like smoke, whatever.
It's a whole other thing,
it's a whole other life that you're living. And like obviously I was living a double life because I didn't want to tell my parents any of that.
Yeah,
so true. That's when that also shifted too because we never had those conversations and I was kind of just doing it. And so, that's when I noticed that in college, like I got a little bit more rebellious and I wanted more of my boundaries with them. Okay. But I don't think it was in a healthy way. It was just more so like, leave me alone. And I was tired of it and I wanted to leave. Yeah. And I think part of it too, it's like very layered, but I think about like my parents' dynamic, like I was just so like tired of it and it had drained me so much that I just like wanted to disappear from it.
Exactly.
So college for sure definitely was the...
Yeah, which sort of like is the helpful part about college. Like it forces you to see things differently. So I think that's helpful. I have this one memory that I wanted to share with you. It's funny. It'll be you telling your mom about, or your mom saying how like she wanted you to focus on grades if you're in a relationship. This memory of when I was in the car with my mom in high school and she didn't know I was in a relationship. And she was talking to me about how like, oh yeah, like it's not good to like date right now because you need to focus on school. If you did have a boyfriend right now, you would not have the straight A's that you have. You would not be involved the way you are. And I'm like, what else does she know? I'm currently in a relationship. But hilarious. Like, actually, I could have grades. Good grades, straight A's.
I could do both.
And have a boyfriend. But like I didn't tell her
That's hilarious. But in your head, you're like...
Sure. I was like, little do you know.
That's so funny.
Just reminded me of that. But...
That's hilarious.
It is crazy how awkward it is.
Yeah, it's so weird.
But like it has to happen in order for it to ever change. It really does.
Yep. Yes, on that one.
Fun stories. This is gonna be thinking about so many freaking funny stories. But transitioning over to now like being able to maybe work on taking those baby steps towards working towards a healthier relationship with parents. I'm curious, like, what are the types of boundaries that you've had to set in order to work towards that healthier relationship with your parents? How did you get there? What have you had to do to make it be at the place that it is now?
I think communicating from a place of like calmness, because I feel like for the most part, a lot of like whenever we kind of did attempt to maintain conversations, it came from a lot of like heavy emotions.
Right.
So I think just like taking a step back has helped me. And so, just having those conversations with them from a calm place and also like, because I've been so calm to have those conversations, I think my message has been received in a good way from my parents. And I think because I live at home and it's a small apartment, I think my parents have always been used to coming into like my room all the time, like just like nothing. And I don't mind at all, but there's times where like when I come back from work, I'm just so emotionally and like mentally drained that I really just need a second. And so I've had the conversation of being like, hey, you guys, like it's not like the way I'm acting right now is not a reflection of you. Yeah. It is a reflection of what I just experienced and I need a boundary like right now. And it's like sometimes I will close my door. So I think that has improved like the relationship because they understand that I also need my space.
They understand the reasoning behind your actions.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think because I have worked a lot on my like emotional regulation, I think it's helped me be more clear in my messaging to my parents with my boundaries. So I think that has helped a lot. I would say like for the most part, that is the main boundary I've had.
That's a great one. Yeah.
With parents, but it's been a lot to work on in therapy for sure.
And just to like explicitly say it. So in order for you to even get there to like say and communicate with them, did it feel like a big part of like you being in therapy to then be able to learn how to say those things? You know, like how did you get to the part of like, I'm going to do it, Was it mostly therapy?
It was mainly therapy. I think my therapist helped me understand because obviously like when you're so frustrated, you're
Yeah.
just like hyper fixated on like your emotions and everything's like focused on you.
Yeah.
But she helps me see the bigger picture.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
she's like, okay, what is the other party thinking, right? Like,
Yeah.
why is your mom saying this? You know, she's a mom. You have to also
Right.
understand her perspective. And so I think like that has helped me just being more aware of everyone's kind of needs and emotions.
Yeah.
And then not feeling bad about placing the boundary, but kind of just like saying like, this is what I need for this very moment. And I would just appreciate if you guys can give this to me. But
Yeah.
definitely therapy has been the one that has helped me. Like,
Yeah.
she's like, girl,
Yeah.
think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You and her. Yeah.
And sorry, I have one more question for you actually that you prompted for me, but I'm also curious because it seems like your parents, my parents are receptive parents.
Mhm.
Like they're ones who like, okay, you actually tell them, like they seem to, for the most part, manage and react well.
Yeah.
What about for a lot of people who don't have those parents? Because I know a lot of people who don't and who don't react the same way that our parents react.
I know.
What then? Like, and I'm saying this out loud too as a thought for myself. Like, what then would we even suggest be done? Because then there are parents out there who like are not happy about what you just said and do not accept that as a reason. You know, I am your mom. I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z, or I am your dad, and I'm sorry, but that's not how it is. You know, like what then happens in that situation? And you know, and when I think about it, I mean, obviously step one, I think is which is what helped us both individually is obviously therapy for self. Like when you focus on the work on yourself, it is going to help you bring a lot more clarity for then how you behave with other relationships. And the reality is sometimes, and a therapist will tell you, sometimes relationships are going to have to change if they are someone who you can't change anyone else. You really can't, you know? And so I think sometimes like it is so difficult because like what more can you do? And I think at least my answer in my head is like, you really can't do anything about the receiving end, but you can focus and continue to like work on how you react, how you manage it, how you behave, and the different strategies and ways that you can go about it in hopes of it getting there, you know? I don't know. I wouldn't know what else to say other than like, I would think you could only really focus on yourself. You really can't do anything to change the other person.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I was thinking about that because I know we have parents that are receptive. Like what would be the case for people who don't have it?
I know, it's such a privilege. I'm like, I forget.
That's why like it's not, a lot of people don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's really difficult. I don't even know what I would do in a situation, but like you said, a lot of it is just working on yourself. And I think with boundaries, like sometimes when there's people that don't understand them, I think the importance is to like just keep enforcing them.
Yes.
And I think like sometimes when you're in a situation like that where parents like, you know, just really adamant about it, it's really easy to like just let your boundary go. And so I think just making sure that you're enforcing your boundary is a good one.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Okay, future therapist.
Hope you all see that. Anyways, yeah, I think that's definitely what it has to be. Just enforcing it, right?
You have to. Yeah.
At some point, they're gonna have to stop, right? Maybe it won't be pretty. It will probably not be pretty. They'll probably react in very unhealthy ways. But I think at some point, it's like they have to give up. I can just assume, but also I think just working on yourself and like you know processing those emotions because it sucks when you really want to build a healthy relationship with someone and they're just not open to receiving that. So yeah, I think that would definitely be some tips.
I agree though. If you continue to like reiterate it, I think importantly, like what they will probably see or have to make the decision themselves is if I want to have a relationship with this person, I'm going to need to also look inward. And if they don't, that's their decision to move forward. But I agree. If you reinforce it constantly, they're going to realize like, okay, I need to make some change in order to have a relationship with my daughter or my son, whatever. And so I agree. As you reinforce, like, that's the goal, hopefully, ultimately.
And boundaries are easy to come up with, but they're harder to enforce.
Yeah.
So what does healing look like for you now, and what is your hope for the future?
Yeah, in terms of, again, I think at the end of the day, like building and working towards the strongest, healthiest relationship I could have with my parents, it is probably for a long time going to be continuous. And as long as I think am continuing to work on myself and like be able to communicate the things that I want to with them. And I think communication is a big thing, like you said, in terms of like what boundary you've set with them. I think that's like a humongous one. Like I think for me, ultimately, the biggest thing that I'm working towards to building that relationship is continuing to normalize things that we just like did not do growing up and did not, or continue to like maybe see clashes, like where can we actually like sit down and talk through it and understand each other's perspective, because it is so important to understand theirs but then actually implement it into action, you know, like once we talk about it. I think it is so important that like I maybe on my end can, after we talk about something that I know that maybe did not say well or did not go well, making sure I can bring it back and not just like forget about it and let it like disappear, which is often what happens.
Yeah.
So I think I'm working on in my healing journey with them is continuing to bring it back to make it normal for us to be able to talk about it, to be able to disagree in a healthy way. And then also I think ego is like a big one. I think my mom and I both like, and I probably learned it from her, but have always struggled sometimes to like be the first one to approach each other after like an argument and like say sorry and approach one another. So I've really been trying to work on like letting go of that and like just, okay, like, hey, I'm sorry that I did this. And like, it's okay not to be the first or to be the first one. And I think we've always struggled with that. Used to do this dumb thing where I'd be like, no, I'm saying the last word. No, I'm saying the last word. No, I'm saying forever. Oh, forever. Oh, forever. Yeah. So
Really?
stupid. Yeah. Oh my God. I know. Childish. Anyways, point is though, I'm realizing that like, okay, I can't expect her to be the one to just not have the last word. I then need to make the decision for myself that like, I'm okay with not, you know, it's the reality, like, and that's going to make me have more peace in the sense of like, I'm the bigger person here and letting it go and not letting it like mean something, you know? And so I think that's something that I'm continuously trying to work on and reflecting like, okay, what did I do in that situation that I can like acknowledge and also say is on my end? So I think that's something that I'm focusing on. Yeah. How about you?
On a similar note, for sure. I think my parents are aging. They're in their like mid, going to their late 60s. So I think for me, I just really want to have a healthy relationship with them. Like you said, like whenever there's a frustration or we don't see eye to eye, I think I used to be very reactive. So I removed myself and, you know, kind of go through the wave of emotions and then approach it, because it's still very uncomfortable. Like I think I can do it in different relationships outside my parents, but like I struggle still with them. But I think being the initiator, and at the end of the day, it's like my parents love me so much that when we have these conversations, it only gets better. Like the relationship grows. So that is my goal. And also just like experiencing life with them. Like I want to travel with them, do things that they love, because they've worked so hard in their life. And you know, like I don't want to think of that day, but I just want to spend like the last, you know, whatever we have left with them and just doing amazing things with them. And that's it. I would say
that's a good point. No, I just wanted to say to that point that you just shared, like I think it is so true at the end of the day. Like there's so many things and sacrifices that they made so early on in their lives with us, that the thing that I also agree is I love seeing when I see on social media is people taking their parents to do things that like they never got to experience, you know? And also being able to allow them to like live life and live their passions and feed into those things that they also have like equal excitement for or curiosity about. So I think that's a great reminder. Thanks for being here for the conversation. I know it was loaded, but to leave off on a lighter note, and obviously some of those like fun, silly things that have happened, we have a little fun activity. So it's going to be like a quick fire questions about memories that we've had with our parents. First one is, what is the silliest thing your parent has ever done in public, or parents have done in public?
So I used to take choir classes at a music school. And obviously my mom at the time like was still learning English. So I remember we went, it was registration time and I was there with her, and it was a very white school. So like, I don't think people understood what the situation. Anyways, she was like trying to translate choir and she didn't really know what to say. So she's she said, can I enroll my daughter in chorro classes?
Chorro?
She's gonna hate me for saying this.
Oh
but I remember being like 14 years old and I was like, there's no way she just fucking said that. It was just really funny, and I just remember just dying about it. And
well, I have a quick story. My mom, literally, the doors of a torteria like shop were closing, and she was like freaking out because I went in to go get tortillas. And so she comes knocking on the door like crazy, like, let my daughter. And it was like, people are still there. They just were closing their doors for no one to come in. Oh, so embarrassing. That was so embarrassing.
So silly.
Okay, how about, who was stricter, mom or dad?
Mom.
Mom. Yeah, for sure. Who would survive a zombie apocalypse better?
My mom.
Period.
Yeah.
I think my mom just wouldn't care. I think my dad is a little competitive, so he'd probably be the one. What's one thing you tell your younger self about them?
To just love them more and give them more grace.
Yeah, I would say something similar. Everything they do is out of love.
Oh,
You know, just remember that, even if it's overbearing.
yes,
That's what I
it's
put. A favorite tradition with your family growing up?
I think always eating together, like breakfast, lunch
Love
when we
that.
could, and
Okay.
dinner all the time. Like we would just always eat together.
Love that. Yeah, I would say the trips we took. They always made an effort to take us on like little road trips. We did like a whole trip to Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would say little trips. Yeah. Okay, last one. What's one lesson from your parents you'll never forget? It's a hard one.
I think the biggest lesson is I've always loved so deeply, and I've gotten my heart broken a lot. And I think they've always just given me a lot of hope for like for the future, and telling me that like love, like the relationship isn't everything, and there's so much more to life, and that just reaffirming me that I am an amazing person. So I think those have been they've picked me up after every heartbreak.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Yeah, they've also a lot of things to choose from, but I would say one of the things that's like helped instill who I am today is to stay strong, and that you can get through anything. Because I think like even through any hardship or any challenges, as long as like I've had the discipline and push through, like I've done it, and it's because of them that I believe that, So I would say that. Okay, what about let's close it out now. What is your small business shout out for the week?
My business shout out is Ground Up Coffee.
Hey.
I recently have been going to get their matcha latte, and it's so fucking good. Like one of the best matcha lattes ever. So
Yeah,
shout
the
out to
matcha's
them.
really good.
Yeah.
The Roger drink, is it the Roger?
Roger, I don't know.
They have name. Okay, anyways, the Roger is the
It's good.
banana matcha.
Oh, I don't like banana.
I don't taste the banana that much.
Okay, maybe I'll try.
My small business shout out is Cipote. It is a tea business. My boyfriend is the founder, but he's been working so hard on making tea accessible in East LA, Boyle Heights, and I'm so proud of him for what he's been doing. So shout out to Cipote for really bringing tea into our communities more.
I know.
Yeah,
That's great. I remember.
And then, what's one wellness tip you have?
Wellness tip is to wake up early. Yeah, I think when you wake up early, you have more time in the day. Also, because I work so late, just giving yourself that time to do things for yourself in the morning.
Love that. Yep, I think the morning can influence the rest of the day. So period. I would say in theme of like upbringing, parent dynamic, all of that, I decided to put or say and share that tapping into your inner child, like make time to do something that you remember you loved growing up, whether that's play, whether that's like something fun, something that like you just did just because out of joy and not like an outcome. So I would say go do something to tap into that inner child of yours.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. We're super grateful to have you all here. And if it spoke to you, feel free to share it with your primas, your tias, your sister, anybody who would benefit from the episode.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram or on TikTok at Healing in Spanglish. And wherever you are listening right now, please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or on Spotify. Your support allows us to continue this passion project of ours. And we are so grateful for all the support we continue to get.
Yes, thank you. Hasta la próxima con mucho amor.